Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of Transcend the podcast. I'm again excited and grateful that you are here to listen. This week's episode is about getting yourself a VA ASAP. Like you just got to do it. Last week we talked about systems and processes and getting organized and thinking about the things that you can automate. So I'm glad you're already thinking about that. This week I'm going to give you a solution so how you can make those things come true. And I think it starts with hiring a VA. So let's see, what is the difference between a virtual assistant and an assistant that you might have in the office? Where the biggest thing is that the virtual assistant is obviously virtual. They're not sitting in your office, which means for you as a business owner, the overhead cost of hiring that assistance for your business is going to end up being less than if you have someone in your office. Now, there are some trade-offs, right? Some things you might need to have someone by your side to do, and that's perfectly fine. But for the tasks that you don't need someone in the office to do, I strongly urge you to consider hiring a virtual assistant. Another thing that is a big difference when you have someone who's virtual is that presumably, and if they don't, you should make sure that they do have this, they should have their own company. So either you're hiring an agency that provides virtual assistants, or your virtual assistant is his or her or their own company. And what that allows you to do is to pay them as an independent contractor, business to business, instead of creating an employer-employee type of relationship. So it could be the same task that you would ask of an assistant who's your employee, but as long as they have their own business entity, then you are okay paying them as an independent contractor because then it's a business to business transaction. So for those of you who have come to the conclusion that you are ready for some help, go ahead and get it. And if you are concerned about the employment taxes and all of the responsibility that comes with onboarding an employee, I encourage you again to really take a hard look at getting a virtual assistant to help you. So now another question I get all the time is, okay, great, Asha, I'm running this business and I've got it all figured out. I don't even know what I can give to a VA. Like, what can they do for me? So I'm going to give you a few concrete examples where you can delegate some tasks to your VA. So the first area that you can delegate tasks in is the administrative and executive tasks. So anything that is admin work, like back end work, what do I have my VA do? I have her set up the registration pages for webinars and workshops. When we are done recording videos inside Transcend, she goes in there and posts them. What else does Jess do? Jess is fabulous, by the way. If I need her, to follow up on phone calls or when people inquire about my legal services and it's not something I do, I ask Jess to respond to those tasks. Jess also reminds me of the deadlines and updates that are coming up. She has cleaned out my email inbox, has organized it, keeps track of my calendar, all of those things that are not particularly hard for me to do, but now that I don't have to do them, it frees up space for me to do the other things. Because those tasks, while not, super complicated, they just take time. And if I can get my time back to do the things that actually produce income, that are income producing tasks, then that's definitely a win for me. So I want you to think about in your business, what are the back end administrative or executive tasks that you could use some assistance with? Maybe you're getting ready to do a pop-up shop somewhere and somebody needs to coordinate with the organizer of the event. Guess what? If you can hand that off to somebody else and know that all of the documents are in place, then that frees up some time for you. What about being a guest on a podcast? If you can have your VA coordinate to book you spots, Jess also does that for me as well, books me spots on my podcast, on other podcasts where I'm a guest, and make sure that all of that, the assets, the images, and the bio get sent out. That frees up time so I don't have to spend time looking to be a guest on other people's podcasts. If you are a service-based business provider, you can have your VA set up the onboarding process for bringing on a new client. Maybe you should be doing the contracts and setting up the initial documents, but the person who can set that up in the process, the automation, can certainly be your virtual assistant. So just take a few minutes to think about what are all the administrative and executive tasks that you can have someone do that are very important to your business, but would free up some time for you if you didn't have to do them. The next area that is great for a VA, depending on the skill set, is HR support, human resources support. So if you have other areas where you have an employee or people working for you, then you can hire a VA with some HR skill to run the HR part of your business. So whether that's onboarding new employees, updating the compensation packages, doing payroll, keeping track of time cards for you, all of that stuff you can outsource to somebody who has a background in human resources. They can run background checks. Now, I will say this, not everyone can do this. You do want somebody who has a background in human resources, who's familiar with it, because the weight of the responsibility is ultimately going to fall on you if there is some misstep in the employment process. So you want someone who knows what to do for the HR task. But there are plenty of people who do that, who know that area and can assist you virtually. So think about that. Maybe if even if you're just hiring a couple people to work a pop-up event, or onboarding somebody because you're going to have them be the graphic designer for, I don't know, set of slides you're doing for a workshop. Your VA could coordinate all of that for you so you don't have to step in and do it yourself. The other area that I think is really important is digital media and marketing. So a lot of VAs are really good at social media. They create graphics. They're content writers or can help write a newsletter. Again, not everybody has all of these skill sets, but these are different things, different tasks that you can outsource to someone virtually that will greatly free up time in your practice. Now, in my own situation, my VA sets up all of the emails to go. So if you're on my email list, if you're not on it, go get on it. Go to my website and go get on it. But Jess sets them all up and makes them look all pretty. I write the content for that, and then she sets it up and makes it look good as it goes out to you and my other email subscribers. Some other VAs will write the content on my captions for my podcast, for this one that you're listening to. If you see it on Instagram, which I hope you do, go over to Instagram, Asha Wilkerson ESQ, give me a follow. You will see some captions under the video snippets and the quote cards that come from my podcast. And Jess has written those. We just transitioned so that Jess is writing like a little summary to let you know what's in the video. That has greatly freed up time from my plate and just taken the mental worry off of my list. So now I don't have to think about, oh gosh, I got to write this thing. Oh, I'm late on this thing. Let me hurry up and do it. Just really, really helps me out with that. So what else can they do with this? Sometimes they can set up ad campaigns if they are knowledgeable in this area. Remember to get somebody who is knowledgeable in the areas that you need, but definitely know that you can get video editing done. You can get posts created, graphic design, ebook design, all of that stuff, how-to guides. You can give the content to your VA and then they can design it for you, freeing up your time and your space. Another thing that is really good is website support. So I know just enough about websites to be able to sort of fumble my way through it. But when I found somebody to help me transition, I'm switching templates for my WordPress site. And if you know anything about that, you know exactly what I mean. Not super complicated, but again, also just stuff that like I've got a million other things to do, right? I teach, I'm doing the podcast, I'm coaching inside Transcend, all of these other things that once I create the content, I don't want to have to spend the hours to update the website. So I have another VA who does the website updating, make sure that all of the, what are they called, the plugins update correctly. If something goes wrong and my website crashes, I don't have to figure it out. I just ask my VA to do it. So think about that. If you are looking to update or even create landing pages, your VA could do that for you when you have an event coming up or a product or service that you're trying to sell, all of that stuff. Let's see, what else? Okay, next thing. How do you onboard a VA? This is the same process I would go through if you were trying to onboard an employee, part-time or full-time. Make a list of all of the tasks that need to get done in your business. And if you're not sure what they are, I would say spend 3 or 4 days in your business writing down everything that you do as you do it. Not in a way that's going to stress you out, but just as a way that's taking notes. What are you doing for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in your business? What are all the tasks that need to get done? And then once you create your list of tasks, I encourage you to put it into a chart, maybe a matrix, where on one side, I think it's the y-axis, the vertical axis, axis is the difficulty or the skill level that's needed. So if something is really challenging, it goes higher up on the y-axis, and if it's not so difficult, then it goes lower down on the y-axis. Then on the x-axis, your horizontal line across your chart, you are going to put the things that you enjoy and the things that you really need to do. Actually, let's make that x-axis the things that are really important in your business. So something might be high skilled but not very important. So that's going to go, high up on the vertical line, but close to that vertical line, not very far to the right on the x-axis. I hope my analogy is making sense, and my visual setup is making sense. The point is that I want you to be able to rank these tasks by importance, and also by the skill that is required to get them done. And then after you have your lists of tasks by skill and by importance, I want you to go through and highlight or star all of the tasks that you want to do or that you have to do. And now, when you think about what you want to do, what do you enjoy? What's in your zone of genius? What's fun for you? What comes easily and naturally for you? Those are the tasks that you want to keep doing. Everything else you want to be able to outsource. The other thing that you might have to do is the stuff that really needs to come from you. So like the podcast, for me, I can't have someone else, I can have a guest on my podcast, but this podcast is me. I can't delegate that task to somebody else. So I have to actually do the recordings of the podcast, and I enjoy doing them. So that's great. That's something I'm going to keep. But the video editing and the quote cards and all that stuff, heck no, I'm outsourcing that. I just want to talk to y'all, share some information, have some fun, and then have somebody else do the rest. So I have two different systems for that. I have a company that I use. It's a virtual company that cuts up the videos and creates the quote cards. And then my VA actually goes and posts them to social media and writes some captions when we need some captions. Let's see, what else can you do? Really think about the stuff that actually has to be done by you. I think a lot of times we think that things need to be done by us, like billing, for example. Is there a way that you can offload billing? Maybe it requires you to keep track of your time, but I know that billing, especially if y'all consultants and business coaches, takes up a lot of time if you're billing by the hour. Shoot, attorneys too, right? But get used to keeping track of your time as you go and make enough notes on it so that someone can come in behind you and generate a bill from what you have already noted. When you get used to keeping track of your time at the time that you are doing it, then billing doesn't have to become this big, huge weight, this big, huge process that you have to get through just to get paid. So figure out a system that works between you and your VA to make it easier for both you and for them, so that now they can send out the bills and follow up if people are late on those payments. Okay, so you've got your list of tasks that you need to do. You rank them by skill set or by skill requirement and by importance. And then you've highlighted the tasks that you want to keep and that you have to keep. And then everything else, think about how you can delegate to somebody else. Okay, now that you have your task, how do you even go about finding a VA? Well, I'm going to give a plug for the VA service that I use, which is called Online Assistant Pro. Veronica Andrade, I'm messing up her name. Veronica. I'm going to give a plug for my own virtual assistant, Veronica, who runs Online Assistant Pro, and she has a whole agency of VAs. So I have been paired with Jess, who is awesome. Shout out to Jess. But remember when I talked about having help with a website? Because I'm using an agency, then I get access to the web developer just like I get access to my own personal VA. And then Jess acts like the project manager. So I told Jess, I was like, hey, you know anyone who can do websites? I think it's time for me to upgrade. Of course, Jess knows because this other VA is in her agency of VAs. And then I got connected, and then Jess acts like the project manager. So I'm telling Jess what's going on, and then Swami is doing the updates for me on the website. And I don't have to think about going back and forth individually because Jess is my main point of contact and she's handling all the other tasks. If I need someone to design an ebook, I have that access within the agency. So Online Assistant Pro, I'm giving my plug 110%. I have been with them for a year. And the beauty again of using the agency is that I get access to everybody else and every other skill set within the agency that I might need. So if I need to find a web designer, if I need to find a video editor, they already have them in their agency. And all I have to do is communicate my need to Jess, and Jess will find the right person. Another benefit of going with an agency is that maybe you and your first VA don't mesh that well, or you need someone with a different skill set. You can go back to the same agency and say, hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't. You have somebody else. And that eliminates the time that you have to take to go and find somebody else, completely starting over from scratch. You also get, say in the same line, you get access to a bigger talent pool. So Jess is really talented in the areas that she is working in. But then, like I said, website design, Swami is talented in that area. Maybe I need like translation services and they have someone who can do that. If I need HR, they have someone in the community that can do that as well. But I pay one company. I pay the same rate no matter who I get. And it makes it much, much easier for me. So I encourage you again, take a look at Online Assistant Pro, Google them, make an appointment with Veronica, and she will sit down and figure out what you need and who she has in her community. You can tell her that Asha sent you. Even if you're not ready to sign up, give them a call, make an appointment just so you can see how you can benefit from using a VA in your business. Now, I also encourage you, there's some other agencies that out there. Take a look at some other agencies as well if you want to, but I encourage agencies more than the individual person, unless you already know the individual person, because again, you get access to more resources, more talent when you use an agency, and you preserve that business to business payment. So you can do it as an independent contractor instead of putting yourself at risk for actually paying an employee like an independent contractor and then getting audited for however that could come up. That's a whole nother podcast about how people get caught with employees, paying employees as contractors. All right, let me just double check, make sure I have told you everything that I want to tell you. Last thing is I want to tell you about how VA services and Jess and Online Assistant Pros really just helped make my business smoother. I have been working with Online Assistant Pro and Jess for a little over a year now. And I tell you, the stuff that has been taking off my plate and out of my mind, that's probably more significant to me than the stuff that's actually been taken off my plate, is tremendous. So now when I have an idea for a new workshop, I tell Jess, hey, this is the date. Here's the content that I want you to put on there. And she gets into the back end of things and sets it up on Kartra for a landing page, then through Zoom for the actual meeting, creates all the graphics and makes sure that the email sequences are set up and ready to go. And I don't even have to think about that. I give her some lead time to do it, tell her the date that it needs to be done by, and we work together to get it done. Social media, Jess has taken that. I drive the direction for that, but I can't stand posting on social media. So I'll write the content, she'll create the graphics, put them up there, let me review them, and then we're good to go. We set them out to go for the month. Reaching out to podcasts for when I want to be a guest on a podcast, just does all of that for me. Responding to phone calls that I haven't picked up, or if someone calls and wants me to do a particular thing like family law, I don't do family law. So I have a list of resources that Jess has access to, and she calls people back for me and tells them, Asha doesn't do that, but here's a list or someone that you can call to help you. That not only frees up my time that I don't have to spend talking to someone who's not a potential client, but it also leaves a good taste in the client's mouth because I have been helpful to them. And maybe when they need the services that I do provide, they'll come back in my direction because I've been helpful already. So I really suggest that you think about hiring a VA to get you started, even if it's just to set up your processes. Oh, Jess has also cleaned out my email inbox. She's helped me set up the filters so that they can go to different folders so that my inbox isn't super cluttered. I get what's important. Other stuff goes into a folder that I can look at later. What else? She puts videos on YouTube for me, all kinds of stuff. So if you were looking, even if you're just getting started, and you think you don't have a big enough volume of work yet, I suggest still reaching out to a VA because they can set up your onboarding process. They can help you get set up with the process for billing. They can help you get set up with your CRM, your client relationship manager. That's super important. There are tons of services out there. And if we're new on this side and haven't done it, we might not know how to set that stuff up or how we could be tagging people in the database to help us communicate with them later. A VA who's knowledgeable in that area can certainly help you do that. So I hope that you have found this podcast useful for you today. I'm really excited that you are here and growing and learning. If you have any questions for me, definitely let me know. You can find me on Instagram at Asha Wilkerson ESQ. And if you have just started a business, go ahead and download my new business checklist. It gives you a checklist of 12 items that you need to pay attention to right after you have started your business. You can find that at transcendthemembership.com/checklist. All right, take care.